Hello, Traeger. It's Mrs. G. Welcome to this year's One Book One CommuniTE. I'm excited to welcome you to our book of the year called How to Eat Fried Worms, and I get to read the first segment of the readings. Chapter 1, The Bet. Hey, Tom, where were you last night? Yeah, you missed it. Alan and Billy came up the front walk. Tom was sitting on his porch steps, bouncing a tennis ball. Old Man Tater caught Joe as we were climbing through the fence, so we had to go all the way back, and he made us pile the peaches on his kitchen table, and then he called our mothers. Joe's mother hasn't let him out yet. Where were you? Tom stopped bouncing the tennis ball. He was a tall, skinny boy who took his troubles very seriously. My mother kept me in. What for? I wouldn't eat my dinner. Alan sat down on the step below Tom and began to chew his thumbnail. What was it? Salmon casserole. Billy flopped down on the grass. Chunky, snub-nosed, freckled. Salmon casserole's not so bad. Wouldn't she let you just eat 2 bites? Asked Alan. Sometimes my mother says, well, all right, if I'll just eat 2 bites. I wouldn't even eat 1. That's stupid, said Billy. 1 bite can't hurt you. I'd eat 1 bite of anything before I'd let them send me to my room right after supper. Tom shrugged. How about mud? Alan asked Billy. You wouldn't eat a bite of mud. Alan argued a lot. Small, knobby-kneed, nervous, gnawing at his thumbnail, his face smudged, his red hair mussed, shirt tail hanging out, shoelaces untied. Sure I would, Billy said. Mud? What's mud? Just dirt with a little water in it. My father says everyone eats a pound of dirt every year anyway. How about poison? That's different. Billy rolled over on his back. Is your mother going to make you eat leftovers today at lunch? He asked Tom. She never has before. How about worms? Alan asked Billy. Tom's sister's cat squirmed out from underneath the porch and rubbed against Billy's knee. Sure, said Billy. Why not? Worms are just dirt. Yeah, but they bleed, so you have to cook them. Cows bleed. I bet $100 you really wouldn't eat a worm. You talk big now. But you wouldn't if you were sitting at a dinner table with a worm on your plate. Bet I would. I'd eat 15 worms if somebody bet me $100. You really want to bet? I'll bet you $50 you won't eat 15 worms. I really will. Where are you going to get $50? In my savings account. I've got $130.79 in my savings account. I know, because last week I put $5 in my grandmother gave me for my birthday. Your mother wouldn't let you take it out. She would if I lost a bet. She'd have to. I'd tell her I was going to sell my stamp collection otherwise, and I bought that with all my own money that I earned mowing lawns, so I can do whatever I want with it. I'll bet you $50 you won't eat 15 worms. Come on, you're a chicken. I know you can't do it. I wouldn't do it, said Tom. If salmon casserole makes me sick, think of what 15 worms would do. Joe came scuffling up the walk and flopped down beside Billy. He was a small boy with dark hair and a long nose and brown eyes. What's going on? Come on, said Alan to Billy. Tom can be your second, and Joe will be mine, just like in a duel. You'll think it's so easy. Here's your chance to make $50. Billy dangled a leaf in front of the cat, but the cat just rubbed against his knee, purring. What kind of worms? Regular worms. Not those big green ones on the tomatoes. I wouldn't eat those. I won't eat them all at once. It makes me sick. 1 worm a day for 15 days. And he can eat them any way he wants, said Tom. Boiled, stewed, fried, fricasseed. Yeah, but we provide the worms, said Joe. And there have to be witnesses present when he eats them. Either me or Alan or somebody we trust. Not just you and Billy. Okay, Alan said to Billy. Billy scratched the cat's ears. $50. That was a lot of money. How bad could a worm taste? He'd eaten fried liver, salmon loaf, mushrooms, tongue, pig's feet. Other kids' parents were always nagging them to eat. His had begun to worry about how much he ate. Not that he was fat, he just hadn't worked off all his winter blubber yet. He slid his hand into his shirt and furtively squeezed the sides of his stomach. Worms were just dirt. Dirt wasn't fattening. If he won $50, he could buy that mini bike George Cunningham's brother had promised to sell him in September before he went away to college. Heck, he could gag anything down for $50, couldn't he? He looked up. I can use ketchup or mustard or anything I like? Anything like that? As much as I want? Alan nodded. Okay. Billy stood up. Okay. Chapter 2. Digging. No, said Tom, that's not fair. He and Alan and Joe were wandering around behind the barns at Billy's house, arguing over where to dig the first worm. What do you mean it's not fair, said Joe. Nobody said anything about where the worms were supposed to come from. We can get them from anywhere we want. Not from a manure pile, said Tom. That's not fair. Even if we didn't make a rule about something, you still have to be fair. What difference does it make where the worm comes from, said Alan. A worm's a worm. There's nothing wrong with manure, said Joe. It comes from cows, just like milk. Joe was sly, devious, a schemer. The manure pile had been his idea. You and Billy have got to be fair, too, said Alan to Tom. Besides, we'll dig in the old part of the pile, where it doesn't smell much anymore. Come on, said Tom, starting off across the field, dragging his shovel. If it was fair, you wouldn't be so anxious about it. Would you eat a worm from a manure pile? Joe and Alan ran to catch up. I wouldn't eat a worm, period, said Joe, so you can't go by that. Yeah, but if your mother told you to go out and pick some daisies for the supper table, would you pick the daisies off the manure pile? My mother wouldn't ask me, she'd ask my sister. You know what I mean. Alan and Tom and Joe leaned on their shovels under a tree in the apple orchard, watching the worms they had dug squirming on a flat rock. Not him, said Tom, pointing to a nightcrawler. Why not? Look at him, he'd choke a dog. Jeez, exploded Alan. You expect us to pick one Billy can just gulp down, like an ant or a nit? Gulping's not eating, said Joe. The worm's got to be big enough so Billy has to cut it into bites and eat it with a fork, off a plate. It's this or nothing, said Alan, picking up the nightcrawler. Tom considered the matter. It would be more fun watching Billy trying to eat the nightcrawler. He grinned. Boy, it was huge, a regular python. Wait till Billy saw it. We let you choose where to dig, said Alan. After all, thought Tom, Billy couldn't expect to win $50 just by gulping down a few measly little baby worms. All right, come on. He turned and started back toward the barns, dragging his shovel. Chapter 3. Training Camp. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Billy was doing push-ups in the deserted horse barn. He wasn't worried about eating the first worm, but people were always daring him to do things, and he'd found it was better to look ahead, to try and figure things out by getting himself ready. Last winter, Alan had dared him to sleep out all night in the igloo they'd built in Tom's backyard. Why not, Billy had thought to himself. What could happen? About midnight, huddled shivering under his blankets in the darkness, he'd begun to wonder if he should give up and go home. His feet felt like aching stones in his boots. Even his tongue inside his mouth was cold. But half an hour later, he was stubbornly dancing about outside in the moonlight to warm himself. Tom, Martha's dog, had come along with 6 other dogs in a pack. Billy had coaxed them into the igloo and blocked the door with an orange crate, and after the dogs had stopped wrestling and nipping and barking and sniffing around, they'd all gone to sleep in a heap with Billy in the middle, as warm as an onion in a stew. But he hadn't been able to think of anything special to do to prepare himself for eating a worm, so he was just limbering up in general. Push-ups, knee bends, jumping jacks, red-faced, perspiring. Nearby, on an orange crate, he'd set out bottles of ketchup and Worcestershire sauce, jars of piccalilli and mustard, a box of crackers, salt and pepper shakers, a lemon, a slice of cheese, his mother's tin cinnamon and sugar shaker, a box of Kleenex, a jar of maraschino cherries, some horseradish, and a plastic honey bear. Tom's head appeared around the door. Ready? Billy scrambled up, brushing back his hair. Yeah. Ta-ra! Tom flung the door open. Alan marched in, carrying a covered silver platter in both hands. Joe, slouching along beside him with a napkin over one arm nodding and smiling obsequiously. Tom dragged another orange crate over beside the first. Alan set the platter on it. "A chair," cried Ellen. "A chair for Monsieur." "Come on," said Billy. "Cut the clowning." Tom found an old milking stool in one of the horse stalls. Joe dusted it off with his napkin, showing his teeth, and then ushered Billy onto it. "Ladies and gentlemen," shouted Alan, "I present my masterpiece, Worm à la mode." He swept the cover off the platter. "Ooh!" cried Billy, recoiling. And that's the end of the first segment of How to Eat Fried Worms. I hope you enjoy the rest of the book and the challenges that we'll be posting on Facebook. Thanks for listening.